And away we go. Jacob. Jake,
Hello.
how you doing, my man?
I'm all right. How are you? What an intro that was.
Thank you. So then lead to this.
Yes. Disappointment.
Obviously, we know each other outside of obviously what we're going to be talking about today. But if you are listening to Jacob's voice and you are also frequent on TikTok, you will probably be fully aware of who he is. But
Yes.
Jacob, who are you on TikTok? Because obviously that's going to be something we're going to delve into a little bit.
So my TikTok handle is the Yorkshire Funeral Director. I just kind of started. Well, it wasn't me; it was my wife. It was Kirsty that did it, and it just kind of blew up. And I've ended up on the Daily Mail and other podcasts and things like that. So yeah, but I own primarily I own an independent funeral directors in Goole in East Riding.
Fantastic. And the reason that we want to have this conversation, especially myself, is to delve a little bit into an industry which is still somewhat unknown, but I think from what I'm seeing is there's certainly enough of you bloody creators out there who are talking about it at the minute, sort of gone a little bit rabbits at the minute.
Yeah.
But also the industry itself, how you've got to it, how you deal, because there'll be an awful lot of people who are watching this who won't have any dealings with it whatsoever, other than maybe arranging one or having attended one. Okay. So in terms of the industry itself, then, immediately straight off the bat, then something that people wouldn't expect about the industry.
I would say what people wouldn't expect or still don't expect is actually how emotionally draining it is. I think people really underestimate dealing with grieving families, as they kind of overlook it. They see the pomp and ceremony, they see the paperwork, they know they've got to meet families, but as a fellow funeral director yourself, you know when you've sat down with 3, maybe 4 families in that day, you are gasping for a cup of tea and just to kind of collect your thoughts. And I think that's something that is people don't really, contemplate when they enter this profession.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something, I mean, we're certainly going to touch into that, but I think something that people will always ask and never understand, which is how you would even go into it in the first place. Because if there's one thing that people go is, ooh, when they're thinking about it, is the funeral industry. And yet, obviously, there's people who are in it and they find that that's their vocation. I mean, how did you stumble upon it yourself?
Before this, I wanted to do, when I was 16, I looked at careers advice and I wanted to kind of do it then. My grandfather was one in Scunthorpe, and it's incredibly difficult to get into the business. It's the easiest way to get in is through a national company. Try and get your foot into the door. When I say easiest, it's took a friend of mine through TikTok. She met me through TikTok asking me for advice for a job interview. Still took her 3 years to get her foot in the door. And once you're in, it's pretty you're in. Mm-hmm. But I asked loads of independents, couldn't get in, and then kind of just thought, well, do you know what? I'm very impatient, so I just thought, no, I've had enough. It's clearly not for me, and I ran pubs. Well, actually, I tell a lie for this. I was actually trained to be a vicar, believe it or not. But I wanted to do bereavement. I wanted to do hospice and hospital chaplaincy. So, and again, linked with kind of bereavement and death and things like that. But
where does that come from, though? Where does that about you come from that you decide that's what I want to do?
What, as a vicar?
Yeah, or the bereavement side of things in like hospice and all that, because people don't tend to go from A to there. You know, they have other things that they're doing as well. How did you land upon that as an idea about yourself?
I've always loved people. I've always found people weird and wonderful. Sometimes it's more weird than wonderful, but I don't know what it is. I think I love how people think, and I love how people try to understand things. And we can look at the same problem and come up with 2 different scenarios or 2 different solutions for it. And I've always been quite a social bunny, and I could, even at school, I was always quite, I'd either hang around with the cool kids or the nerds or the kind of the outcast, and I always felt okay with them all. Like I never felt I was just kind of a bit of a social butterfly. But I had a faith when I was younger. Went to church, and like I said, I was trained to want to be a vicar and do chaplaincy and things like that. And then the vicar who was also my headmaster of my high school, a really lovely guy called Francis Loftus. And he was a non-stipendiary minister, so he's still a fully ordained Church of England vicar. That was just his volunteer job. His full paid profession was a headmaster of the school. And he said, look, Jake, when you get to 21, when you leave university, when you study theology and ministry, you won't be married, you won't have kids, you won't really probably experience death. So all I'm saying is when you go for selection, maybe just say, it's not a no, it's just a not now. How can you go walk into a family situation where they've lost somebody, fresh-faced and things like that? They're just not going to take you seriously. How can you offer guidance and support, which I fully understood. So
was that something then that you were contemplating, sort of like that? You wasn't going to have to be, you wasn't going to be in a relationship, you weren't going to have children. You was going to literally dedicate yourself to that.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I was Church of England, I could still get married and have children. I wasn't Catholic, but I still now don't want children, and it's not for me. Is that? But yeah, I could just see doing good. I could just see. Because as we walk into people's lives as strangers and trying to make things easier. We can never make the situation better, of course not. But at least we've done something positive for somebody, for anybody, regardless of anything. And yeah, that was my kind of thought process of it, and to be kind of respected in what I do. So that was my kind of thought process. And then when he said no, so I started to sing. I sing opera and things like that. Because he said, look, your singing's going really well. You're going all over the country and the world and things like that. So why don't you just carry on with that? But as life gets on and I need a mortgage, putting musician down, it's the big red stamp of denied was the application. So I ran pubs. I used to work in hospitality, so I ran pubs for years, and then got with Kirsten. We owned pubs, and when I had a local village pub near here, I gave my business cards out to all the funeral directors and said, look, we're available for wakes, if you ever need anything. And I got chatting to the guy that was who owned this business before I owned it. And he says, oh, you seem to know a lot about this. He said, well, my grandfather was one. It's always something I've been interested in and things like that. And I said, all right, no worries, and left it at that. And then COVID happened. So I went back to the chap and I said, look, my pub's shut. I'm free anytime if you need me. And then I was just a really good employee for him. I was reliable, and I turned up, and I was good at dealing with people because, again, I've had, years of customer service and reading people, judging the room, and basically our job is about this event planning, really. That's what we do. So it's about, prepping everything that needs to happen beforehand and double checking everything. And then I was really enjoyed it. And then the pubs reopened, and I said, look, pubs got to reopen now. So, and he came to me and said, look, I'm really, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said, well, tell you what, let's go in as a partnership. So I left the pubs, sold them all, moved back to Selby, and opened, and then it was just Castleton. Now it's Castleton and Walsh. And then I did 2 years, just over 2 years, and then I bought him out. So now it's solely mine.
Fantastic. And I think the question a lot of people have will be, and certainly one I have, is how did you get on with your first deceased that you got to see?
I still remember him. He used to live 3 streets down, and he died of liver cancer because he was jaundice. And it's nothing like the films, is it? People always expect it to be like Silent Witness and CSI and NCIS, and it's not. He was very peaceful. He passed away at home where he wanted to be. His family still loved him, and and he was still warm. He was, it was all right to hold his hand and things like that when we moved him. And I still remember him. But you always remember your first.
It's one of those things, because where else would you, unless it was a family member of your own. Where else would you have even encountered that? You know, and I always think, how would you know how you're going to deal with it until you are put in that situation? Because there have been very few people who go into it, go, yes, I love this. A few people are kind of like, okay, I'm not so sure about this. And some people are very much like, no, I'm not having it. No, I can't cope with this. But it's something that I've always said, look, you don't know what you're going to be like until you're in that situation. And for you, I guess maybe just seeing somebody, I mean, did you say you knew them anyway?
No, I just knew that I still remember he lived 3 doors down.
Oh, okay.
My funeral arranger, see who we know, Tanisha, her first one was a friend of mine's baby, very close friend of mine, full gestation, 2 days old. And then we had to go to Sheffield Children's Hospital. And I've always been the firm kind of belief that, you know, if we're looking after baby, we have a Moses basket and they sit at the front with 2 of us. And I always have a mum or a female with me. I always think it's quite a nice and gentler approach. And I said to her, I said, look, are you going to be okay with this? You know, you're a parent and this is your first call out, as it was, you know, first kind of removal. And she was brilliant at it. And that was a real kind of baptism of fire for her. And she handled it better than I did. As soon as I saw my friend's baby, I was really struggling, but she just really, really good and really gentle and talked to Rocky and really professional. I was so proud of her. That's
the thing, mate. I think that people will say the same about police officers, fire brigade, paramedics, and so on. You're put in those positions, and the majority of people are always going to think, how do you deal, especially when you're thinking about children? Well, so then the question is, how do you deal? How do you deal with that?
I think for me, it's always having a really good support network. I'm really lucky to have Kirsty and my family, my parents, a really great set of friends. There is no judgment. I also have one really good friend. He's a police officer. He's my best friend and Uncle Jake to his kids. And he gets it because he knows because he's been there. And when he's not in his right frame of mind, when he's had to do a door knock or he's had to do something quite emotionally challenging, he's rung me and we've gone for a beer and we've talked about it because he doesn't want advice, and nor do I. He just needs to vent and for someone to understand. Whereas like my Kirsty and does a normal 9-to-5 job, she doesn't get it. This is not her fault. Yeah. It's just she just doesn't know what we see and experience and feel unless like you said, unless you're in this profession, you just don't know.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone has their own ways of dealing with it. But what people won't know is that there will always be however many of them that stay with you forever. What's one that stuck with you?
A gentleman who was an RT. There's 2 really, both of them are RTCs. Rocky will always stay with me because he's close by. You know, he's always, you know, close with the family and things like that because we were friends before and they chose me because we were friends. A gentleman who was in a van and he had a head-on collision with a lorry and he burnt to death. We had to prise him from the cab. We actually had to ask the fire brigade to cut his hands off because he had gripped the steering wheel to get him out. And he was, you know, he couldn't be identified visually, so it had to be DNA or dental records. But then having to pull him out and then trying to prise the hands off the steering wheel to put with him. And it's just that smell. It's just, you know, there is that smell that you just can't forget. It's always burnt in the factories of your nose. And another RTC, a really young lad, only in his 20s, he was a road traffic collision, and me and an embalmer spent about 8 hours embalming him and rebuilding his head because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt and he just shot out of his car and face planted. So, and he had a forensic post-mortem. So they had removed his face and only kept that bit of tissue there as you know, they do. But so we had to remove his face, took all of the bones out and then kind of piece him back together. So his mum could come and visit him, and she did, and she said he looks far better than what I thought he was going to do. So me and Embalm spent 8 hours rebuilding his head.
But then it was obviously good for her to be able to come see her son, but the toll it's then taken on you, I can imagine, is incredible.
I said to my team, I don't want you to be in here. There are sometimes the people that we've looked after where I've had to say to the team, I will do this because I as an employer have to look after 3 sets of people: the family of the deceased themselves, and my staff and their mental well-being. And as you work with people for a long period of time, like we go all over the country, and there's usually 2 of us, and we talk about life, we talk about problems, we talk about family, we talk about issues and the world and everything in it, and you get to know them. And it's a massive cliche when they say they become your family, but you've met my team. We are phenomenally close knit, and it's another support network for what we have. So I know when someone's not right, and they know when I'm not right. So it's always good to have that. And when I know that something's not, you know, it's upsetting them, or they're just, you can see it's bothering them, I can take them out of that equation, because it'd be wrong for me, not only as an employer, but as a fellow human being, to put them in such a terrible situation where they can see them not coping.
Well, it's just the human touch, isn't it? Just the empathy to recognize this is a person who's struggling.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm not a corporate body. You know, I am very small, independent. I have a very small, close-knit team. They all matter. They're not a number. You know, we're all really close. We go around to each other's houses. We have barbecues together. We spend time with each other outside of work. I'm godparent to one of my staff members' child. You know, it's so, but that has got me loyalty, and that has got me a really good workforce. They know the standards of expectation that I have set, and they know that they need to either meet it or try to exceed it.
I'm just trying to think about being in a situation where not only is it somebody that you know that you're having to look after, but it's a good friend. How does that affect what you do, the way you think? Because people, nobody can put themselves in that position unless they're in it. So how did it affect you?
I had to see them as a client. I had to. It was really difficult because they asked me to come. So Rocky passed early in the morning, and they were in Hull Hospital. And just if anyone here from Hull Hospital and the Sands, the mother and baby unit there, incredible, really beautiful midwives, extremely kind. I was at the office and I was doing some bits, and then so I was friends with her brother, the mum's brother first, and then obviously you get to know them through kind of family gatherings and things like that. And she says, "Oh, Claire wants to see you." And I said, "Are you sure?" And I said, I'm at work. She says, "Yeah, she wants to see you now." So this was 5 o'clock of that same day. So I just took my tie, rolled up my sleeves, tried to make me look less formal as what I can. Took my ID badge because obviously I'm mentoring a hospital and they need to know who I am. And I just saw her and the family there, gave him a hug, chatted to them as Jake, because that's informally, that's what people know me as. And then I had to do the serve, be Jacob as funeral director. You know, that's, did it all throughout until the service. And then I became Jake because everything was happening and I've done everything needed to. The service had started. I had a really lovely celebrant who trained me to be a funeral director as well. She's the one who gave me the kind of the basics training. And she's a beautiful celebrant as well. So and I now became Jake. I just cried. And because it was just holding that dam of water kind of until it was I could just release it. And because I could become Jake, I could become a friend. I was looking at my friends in sheer despair. And it's something, as you know, there's nothing we can do.
No.
No coffin should be that small.
No, you assumed your role. You kind of went into mode.
Yeah.
And as soon as that mode was over, then the real you's come out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But that's because I had to protect myself, because for me to do my job properly, I have to be Jacob, the funeral director. And even my friends, we got drunk on New Year's Eve, and we was talking absolute BS at 5 o'clock in the morning after tanking a load of rum. And they said, can I just say something? It was really lovely that you did it, but it was you, but it wasn't you. And I went, I get you, but it had to be that way, because I wouldn't have been able to do the service justice if I'd have just been upset all the time. And I was, but that's not what you deserve, and that's not what families deserve. So I have to put that wall up, and then when everything's done, like you said, once the service is done, I can then bring that wall down.
It's a bit like when I've been aware of people in the industry, funeral directors, who've conducted funerals of their own parents.
Yeah.
And trying to separate, almost like a thing of honor, like I'm going to do this for them. Yeah. And all the while I'm thinking, I don't know how you're doing this.
Yeah. I thought the same, because I thought, well, eventually this is going to happen to me, because, death is an eventuality that will get us all. And we've always been a family of family bearers. We always carry our loved ones in. And I thought, do I carry, or do I page? What do I do? So it's always been a bit of a conflict, but it's I've looked after both my grandma and my granddad when they passed away, and it was very nice to do their service. I didn't do their personal care, so I didn't have to do what you would call, or other people call, care and prep. I call it personal care. I just think it was just wrong for me, and is the fact when women enter my mortuary and they're doing personal care, I get 2 of my female team members to look after ladies. I think it's only right. Nothing to take away. My chaps, nothing away to take away from me. It's not that we look. It's just I think it's only right and respectful that ladies should be looked after by other ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't understand how people can obviously look after someone that they're that close to. I mean, I admire them. It's a huge admiration for them. I think that something that comes out the funeral industry is you get a very good snapshot of humanity. But in saying that, I say good and bad. Because you'll see families coming together through difficult times, friends of families helping out, people helping out with resources, whether it be money or anything like that. Wonderful things done on the day. You also see the shit that people will do or will say or don't care about. What is there any, what kind of, I mean, it's only some limit that you'll be able to talk about. What kind of things would surprise people?
I had a burial. I was helping a friend out. I was FDing for a friend. She couldn't do it. She was poorly. And it was over in West Yorkshire, close to the Lancashire border. And I was told that this particular family member was just a nightmare. The rest of the family were beautiful, really lovely, and they were. But this cousin, I think he was just angry. He just, out of that 5 stages of grief, he was just set in anger. And we got to the burial. We're all around the plots. The priest was there, and he was just doing the committal. And you could see him. He was getting a bit agitated, and I don't know, the 2 females were around him. And he said, "Oh," and he just says, "Look, just calm down, just calm down." And he goes, "I'm fuck this and F that and Jeff this," and the vicar or priest, I can't remember which one it was. He said, "Look, can we just calm ourselves down and just remember why we're all here?" Which is a fair statement to make. And he turned around to the vicar or the priest and went, "Shut and do your clean job." Whether I am religious or not, at the end of the day, we have respect for everybody. So like I said, I ran pubs for ages. So I went to landlord mode. I went, "Oi, if you don't calm down, you're going off."
Yeah, get out my pub.
Get out my pub. Full Peggy Mitchell.
Yeah.
I said, you don't talk to him like that. If you can't control your emotions, you go. I'm very lucky that in my team, I had 3 coppers and a prison officer. All retired, but still healthy. You know, there was in the late 50s, early 60s, but still handy. Hands like shovels they had. So, and they kind of came in and he just kind of simmered down. He says, "Look," and you could just see one of the cousins was just grabbing all me, "Just shut up." I said, "Sorry, Vicar, can you please carry on?" And we did that. And the family came to me and just said, "Look, I'm really sorry about it." Mrs. That is not something that you need to apologize for. It's something he needs to apologize for, and not to me. He needs to apologize to that vicar because he needed to remind him that we need to say goodbye to your loved one.
Yeah.
But I think it's always grief and money. They are the 2 biggest things that causes conflict, and it's mainly money. How much is this going to cost me? Why is it so much? When am I getting my inheritance? What's in the bank? Well, what have they got? Any jewelry? They owed me so and so much. I want that back.
That's the thing, Jake. Is it's in my own experiences, it's when one of the first questions given to you are, "Have they got any jewelry? Can we have it back?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is what's important. And it always amazes me. And this, I tie this up also with people going, "Well, can we not have the funeral like sooner because we're going on holiday?"
Yeah.
It's like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, some hospitals, it's not just a release form. Sometimes you have to wait for the green, and we cannot do anything without that death certificate. That green is our passport. That allows us to go to the hospital, allows us to book the burial, it allows us to book the crematorium. We cannot do anything without that death certificate. And for families, they cannot get their head around the fact that we do not create the music, we just dance to the tune. So we're waiting for the doctor, we're waiting for the ME, we're waiting for the registrar. And a lot of registrars, they're covering multiple sites in the same district, and they just are working, trying to do part-time, full-time hours, but part-time here, part-time here, part-time here. Well, why is it taking so long? Why can't you give me a date? I says, okay, if I give you a date, say we're going to do it the 19th of July, and we haven't registered then, we've put up the funeral notice in the paper, we've done a social media obituary, and then we can't do it because your doctor has not signed off on it, and it's gone to coroners. We have to then cancel that funeral. So I'm not willing to jeopardize that.
Absolutely.
It's not me. There are so many parts behind us that play an integral part before we can do what we do. Same like coroner. That PM can take 3 or 4 days. I've waited 12 weeks for a post-mortem. And
it's out of your control.
Yeah, I was like, it's not me. Well, can you ring them? They're my boss. I am a nobody. I am but a mere peasant compared to them. What are they going to say to me? Can you hurry up? No. Okay.
The thing is, the funeral industry has taken one hell of a battering in the last, let's say, 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Huge battering. It's very much come under the microscope of the media. It's come under the microscope of the nation, basically everyone. One of the things that people never used to want to even know was the funeral directors. No, don't even want to look at it. Now everyone's interested, okay? But they're interested for horrible things that have happened. And one of them, not even in a funeral home, but everyone else has got tarnished with it, which was David Fuller.
Oh.
So if anyone doesn't know, as much as I'll be careful with the details for the purposes of YouTube. David Fuller, who is currently serving a whole life sentence, was actually being investigated for 2 cases of murder. I believe from the 80s, which he
was 84, wasn't it? Smart, yeah.
but they managed to get new evidence, basically putting him to the crime. Okay, and so they went to his home, did a routine warrant search, and they found a hard drive which had
and his desk, wasn't it? Wow.
Yes, it was taped to the back of his desk, and he was currently working as a air quotes electrician in a hospital, but seemed to spend an awful lot of time in the mortuary and had recorded absolutely numerous videos and images of himself engaging in sexual acts with the deceased, ranging from it was 9 to 90 odd. I think it was completely.
It was over like 30 years, wasn't it? It was for a long period.
It was a long time, but he was documenting the whole thing, and they still don't even know why he was doing that. It's just he wouldn't also give an explanation why. I was seeing a documentary about it, because obviously as a TikToker you get asked, it's full of thing what's going on, why would he do it? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because he's clearly not right. There's clearly a mental illness. And he said, and he remembers him, there was CCTV of him in the interview room, and he says, yes, I've done it. Don't ask me any more questions. I've done exactly everything you've just put before me. No comment to everything else. And so it's still unknown why. I saw I saw the body cam footage of him being arrested in his house, and then you've just seen he's got his family there, who God knows what they must be thinking, to be fair. But the problem with this, not the problem as such, but the side effect that's come from it is that people have seen the word mortuary, and then it's then filtered out to funeral directors as well. And to this day, I still don't know why funeral directors got involved into the inquiry of going on being spoken to, because I don't know why. But
that's the NHS for you, because what they do is they deflect. Yeah. So they've done we've done an internal thing, but by the way, funeral directors aren't regulated, and instead of going, well, hang on, it was nothing to do with us. You've got, he passed a DBS check. You've got all your, your ID badges and it's all audited. Every room you go to, you get clocked and logged and stuff like that. You can't pass this blame on to us. We've got enough shit going on in our own profession, more than enough. But there was a part one, which was obviously the NHS, and then they did a part two going, oh, by the way, funeral directors are not regulated. It just seemed very relevant at the time.
Yeah. But then what doesn't then help that was when the Legacy incident came out.
Which is the main.
Isn't the only one. There's been numerous that have come out, but that's the one that garnered the most media attention, was this Legacy funeral directors in Hull. Whistleblower, I believe, was the person who it first came in from. I think that was who it was. It's never been really sort of established who brought that to the police's attention.
As I know, because I'm but 20 miles away from Hull, we were after that whole kind of really described as an absolute shit show. Our coroner just went, right, everybody's getting inspected. Just send environmental health to inspect it. The national companies, independents, everybody. As I understand it, another funeral directors, which I know him as well, because as you know, us funeral directors, we all know each other. It's very incestuous,
aren't you?
Yeah. And so Rob had borrowed a stretcher and hadn't brought it back because he actually sold it because he was hemorrhaging money. And so my friend went, right, you're coming with, said to his team, right, you're coming with me, we're going to our stretch back, because he's not answering my calls, he's not doing anything. So he goes in, he distracts Rob, his mate goes into the mortuary, and then he sees this.
Yeah, so basically, for those who aren't aware, because obviously there might be people watching this from the US as well, there was this massive investigation, and so the police searched the premises because of this whistleblow that had come through. And what they found were numerous deceased, more than you would ever have in a funeral home. Absolutely. Not stored correctly. And as what it then transpired was the gentleman who was running Legacy was allegedly, because I still think it's all going through courts at the minute.
So he's pleaded guilty to all.
He's pleaded guilty to all. Yeah. But let's not tempt
still allegedly.
Right. Allegedly. Okay.
Allegedly.
was taking the money for funerals, but then not actually booking them. So therefore keeping hold of the deceased and the money.
Yeah. And giving somebody else's ashes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yes, and then the ashes that they were given were either a combination of somebody else's ashes or they weren't even ashes at all, because people wouldn't know what ashes are meant to be like unless you've delved into it for some strange reason. But obviously you wouldn't know. But also stealing donation money as well. And this caused monumental damage to the funeral industry 100%, because not only, God help them, the funeral directors in the Midlands who were also called Legacy, who were like, it's not us, okay, but the trust in the industry had gone, absolutely gone. And numerous people contacted their local funeral home and go, well, are these actually my dad's ashes? Are these actually real? Have you actually taken my dad for his funeral? What did you see after the initial few months after that particular incident?
Well, we were told, obviously, myself and other, I wouldn't say content creators, sounds really mushy. People who are, on TikTok and social media people were told we can't really start talking about this because we don't want to upset the case. I did do a little bit, but very neutral. I just stated the facts. And I remember seeing it on BBC News. I have a BBC News app, and it came up, and I saw it, I went, oh dear. And I thought, I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, idiot. But I didn't. Then obviously the details came out. 35 deceased, over half a ton of ashes with no names and no identifying factors, because obviously, for some reason there was a bit in the investigation where they had to go to a specialist pathologist to say, could you get DNA from ashes? Well, any me, you, anybody else knows that you're over 1,000 degrees, that cremator, it's pure carbon.
DNA left.
You ain't got nothing. So, so it was just an absolute horror, because we had families calling us. Are you sure this is what's happening? Listen, I can hand on heart say I gave you a copy of the cremation certificate. You can ring the local crematorium and give them that serial number. They will attach it to that person, so it's not just me saying that. Someone independent to me can match that. You've identifying factors, obviously the date they were cremated, obviously the serial number, the full name, age when they died, where they were registered. They're important things. So now, since after this, I even say in arrangements, I say, look, especially around pricing, I said, look, funeral directors are not really held in high regard right now. And so I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can and say to you, right, this is the pricing structure. When we say cremation, and you can see them go, look, you can ask me anything you want about cremations. They go, what goes in? Is it everything? Do you take them out of coffins? I'm like, no, it took me ages to get them in and make them look nice. I don't want to take them back out again. Yeah. So I said, look, what is left on the catafalque? I will tell you what happens. You will leave, the curtains will close, they go to the back of house, they go onto a charging table. The crematorium attendant, who has already checked at the entrance of the crematorium, will have checked the nameplate, because that is a legal document, because it has their full name, date of birth, date when they passed, and their age when they passed away. It all matches up to the paper that we've just filled out. Then the back of house team will do exactly the same, and they what's called charged into the cremator, and they are done individually. They get swept out, they get cooled down, they get cremulated, and then they return to you. And they have a process. There is a docket that follows them. That's their passport. That does not go anywhere. Where them people, the remains go, that docket follows them. It's bulletproof. Unless someone does this and swaps the dockets about, which no one in the right mind would do, I can 100% guarantee that is your loved one.
But you can see that the trust went. And I still don't 100% think it's got back, because I'll tell you for why. And I don't necessarily blame them for this, but the media caught an awful lot of attention by bringing this to the forefront about legacy. a lot of eyes, a lot of clicks, and so on. So I think the media found a little bit of a niche there and sort of go, oh, people are interested in this. And then any slight interest in any kind of other funeral directors, it was bang, front and center again. Things have been going on for a long time. Okay. I'm aware of things that have happened. I'm pretty sure you're probably aware of things that have and haven't happened potentially. But we always seem to get embroiled in something. And one of the ones that I'm really interested in was obviously the case regarding Harold Shipman. And again, if you're not aware, Harold Shipman, GP, late 90s, early 2000s, I think this is around the time this was happening. He was convicted of murdering. He is actually Britain's biggest serial killer.
Yeah. So the 200, I think he's claimed victims.
We're in the hundreds, I believe, with him, where essentially he would attend to primarily elderly people who were poorly and would administer to them lethal doses of, I can't remember what it was that he was giving.
Insulin.
Was it insulin? Was it?
Insulin.
And at the time, just to sort of clarify this with people, you only needed one doctor to certify the death, to fill out the paperwork. So essentially, he was marking his own paperwork. So he was saying, oh, yeah, they died natural causes or whatever it might be and so on. Until obviously he got caught. And then the whole process changed. And then you had two doctors. So then you had the original doctor who looked after that person, and then an independent doctor who would, in all fairness, do fuck all by glancing at them and going, oh, yeah, and then signing paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had to pay for the privilege as well.
Yeah, and getting paid for the privilege. But what I'm concerned about is we all know what happened in COVID. So COVID came along and they decided, no, you only need one doctor again. Okay. I'm waiting for that story to come out. Something's happened. Do you not think something's probably happened during that time?
Well, the thing is now, I mean, when we did, the process was that if we were having cremation, we would let the doctor surgery know, and then they would send the doctor who treated them to come into our chapel. They would see them, identify them, and they would give them. And a lot of it was already filled in already. Yeah. They just, there you go. And then you would have to pay, well, the family would have to pay them, but we would have to pay them a check or cash for £82. That's not for the doctor's surgery. It's not for the hospital. It's directly to the doctor's pocket. Yes. They used to call it ash cash.
Yes.
And so, but when it was two doctors, it was say £164. So, it's £164 that families had to pay. I think the quickest a doctor has entered my funeral directors, seen the deceased and left is 28 seconds.
Yes.
And that was 8. And that was, so, it was, even now with the new process where the doctor sends an AD and an MCCD to the ME scrutinizes it, sends it back because, yes, that's fine. We're happy with that. Or then sends everything to the registrar or it goes to coroners. No one sees them. No one's, so they could say anything behind the scenes. The other thing that they do is the medical examiner, the ME, rings the family and says, we have this down as the cause of death. Is this, you feel comfortable with this? And has there been any medical negligence, or do you feel that there's anything else that's been contributing to this factor? And a lot of families, they won't know. It's the grieving. How can they think
they got an official person speaking to them, an authoritative person speaking to them on the phone? And even if they did have slight issues, they're probably going to be like, no, everything's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, because, what happens if the ME says, well, if you do think of anything, we're going to have to go for coroners and post-mortem and an inquest. So they're going to go, oh, bloody hell, I don't want that. No, everything's fine. Of course, everyone wants it smooth and quick as possible. They don't want to think, because the thing is, people think post-mortem, it's going to take ages and it's, there's going to be a court and it's police and things like that. I mean, the amount of times that police and paramedics have called us and we've said, look, we're pretty sure it's going to go to coroners and this person's going to have a post-mortem. They're going, we haven't done anything. And I went, no, it's not. It's just a blanket procedure. But blame Harold Shipman for it.
Yes.
Because
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. what this highlights is that there's, I don't want to say an ignorance, because people aren't told, so people don't know. This for me creates a bit of a oil and water moment, because this is when social media comes in. Okay, before I go into that, before I get on my high horse and start
pontificating,
yes, absolutely. Tell me about getting into your social media, how that started, and what led to the Daily Mail sort of appearance.
So I ran pubs, like I said, and the waitresses on a Saturday night, usually it was our busiest night, we'd do 100, 200 people. And I just say to the girls, right, go get a drink, write down on wastage, and we'll all sit down, we'll have a chat. And it was really quite nice. A lot of them just didn't want to go home. We'd be there for another couple of hours because we'd just sit there chit-chatting and laughing and stuff like that. And they'd ask me questions because I was doing the pub and this at the same time. And they said, my waitresses were all teenagers, 15, 16, 17, 18. They said, you need to get on TikTok. What's that? And Jesse went, give us your phone, you relic, and got on the phone and created me a TikTok account. I said, what do I do? And it's because you need to create a video, record yourself, and just answer a question that people always ask you. And the question I always get asked when I tell people that I'm field director, they ask that I'm a field director, they go, do you see dead people? I'm like, well, yeah. I hope so. Yeah, because they get a bit tetchy when they're alive, and then I start coming up. And it got about 36,000 views. And I was literally refreshing it, another 1,000, another 500, another. Then it was like a bit of a break. I thought, we've hit the peak. Oh no, kept going, and people started commenting, and then you could reply to the comments, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And then I do videos because they say, like about the coffin, go into the cremation. You take the coffin, them out of the coffin before you cremate. I'm like, no, I don't. And then people started saying, does your hair grow after you die? And what happens this? And it just answered, and it just spiraled. And other TikTokers, I'm one of the very few, there's myself, Mortuary Tech, and Peterson's funeral directors. We're quite close of TikTok people that we have our own WhatsApp group because we're really sad. And we are the ones that answer the questions that people want to ask, but I've never found a person to ask. There's never been a situation as to ask someone who knows. There's a lot of them that do the look who it is. Look at me while I'm paging, and I've got the horses, and I've got the Bentleys, and I've got the Rolls Royces. You know exactly who I'm on about. And they, it looks all very nice and prim and proper, but people don't want to know that. They want to see it, but they want to know. Look, what actually happens when I die? Who do I call? Yeah. What's a post-mortem? Do all your organs really get put back in a bag and put in your chest cavity like a bag of giblets? And they'll go, yeah. They want to know it, but they want us to be honest. And I'm a Yorkshireman, so I straight to the point. This is what happens. And it just spiraled. And then Jane, a report from Daily Mail, contacted me and said, I want to do a speaker. And it was just after the Amy Upton thing in Leeds. Mm-hmm. And they said, I want to do a positive piece on funeral directors, and I said, okay. And she did a Skype call, and then a photographer came and did some pictures, and then it got put in the paper, and they called us deathfluencers. It just sounded like I wanted people to commit suicide. It sounded awful. And I was like, but she was really good about it. It's just the title of it. But the thing is, it's newspapers, something like that will sell.
Clicks and eyeballs, that's all it is. Yeah.
But they did a really positive piece, and she was very, very kind. And she said, look, if I did die out, or when I do die.
If I do die forever.
I would feel comfortable with Jake looking after me with how passionately he talks about his job and things about getting right. So yeah, and getting podcasts such as this, and I have my own podcast called Dead Honest and things like that, and Spotify. And it's people, like you said, after the whole legacy thing, people just blinkered. I don't want to look at that, and I don't want to. And then some of the legacy thing hit off, and the people gone, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? What do you do with this? And why does this? Why should this take this long? And why is my nana changed so much so soon? And why is did so and so, why is the hair falling out and things like that, and people just want to know. But why shouldn't we know? It's their loved one.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Let me begin. Right. So let me get my my anger out today. Okay, right. Having been also in the industry,
yes,
I love the industry. I absolutely thoroughly love it. I love the etiquette of it. I love the respect, the empathy of the industry, and so on. I'm very protective of it.
Yeah.
Which is why I particularly like your content, because what it is, it's you, and it is just this, wherever you may be, but obviously usually with a wall behind you or so on, yeah. You've got the question on the screen and you're answering it with dignity.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not what I'm seeing an awful lot of, because the problem is where I follow you on TikTok, the algorithm's like, oh, he must want continuous videos about funerals. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm now being bombarded with numerous accounts on TikTok, and I have never got so riled up in my life about it, purely because if I see another person strolling through a cemetery to black and white and music, or if I see another, this is the one that really pisses me off. It's where they're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And it's to do with and I'm like, this doesn't sit right with me at all. Okay. There is a particular one that I keep getting videos of, a particular account, and I did say my piece on there and got nothing. Where it is just memes relating to the industry, but things that should be quite sensitive.
Yeah.
And to me, it's becoming too much now. It's going too far the other way.
Yeah.
So where the complaint always used to be, nobody knows about the industry, it's too closed off, people don't know anything. You then get the emergence of people like yourself and others, and obviously in America, they have their own versions of it as well, where they'll talk about things, and it's all done very tastefully and so on. We're now entering into TikTok world for like what actually TikTok is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm pretty sure we're not a million miles away from actually having deceased on videos. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, the amount of questions I get about putting deceased, or can I see a deceased in your mortuary? And can I see you do personal care? I'm like, no. This is, my mortuary is a sacred place. It's not a religious place, but these people are there to rest. They're not there for your source of entertainment. I am answering your questions for your knowledge, and go. I'm not here to be funny or to be crude or to clickbait or to be outrageous. I'm here to tell you facts. And I'll always try, I'll always be honest. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Absolutely. And for me, to have a video of people dancing in a funeral home and so on, and to me, it's gross.
Yeah.
The whole thing is gross. And I get because I am so protective about it, I get enraged. Is what I end up, I get enraged about it. Because here is something like, for me, it would be the equivalent of similar things happening at a children's hospice and things like that. And people would be going, right, okay. But apparently we now, it's okay to do these kind of things. We understand in the industry there is gallows humor.
Absolutely.
But we generally know that as a thing to deal, to process. Yeah. It's not usually done because I just happen to do it. It's because that's your way to process. That's not it. This isn't gallows humor. This is, look at me, I'm on TikTok, and let's just be funny. Let's be funny about the whole thing. Okay. I understand they probably have an audience. I'm sure they do. But if I'm really wanting to condense it into my true feelings, they're fucking idiots. So let me just put it out there.
How do you really feel?
Exactly. I could go harsher than that. What are you noticing things differently now in terms of social media with the industry? Because you've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, I would say again, there's a lot more, don't get me wrong, lighthearted. I'm all about being lighthearted and things like that, getting it. But when they're trying to do humor, and it's I think TikTok is such a fine line. You can do really well, and it only take one clip, 1 10-second clip to go boom, and you are done. Even like when I do TikToks, it usually takes me about 20 takes because I might use a term that I think is too harsh, or things like, just how I say things. So it's never done in one take. And there was one recently, it was a Dignity private ambulance, and they brought someone alive on and brought him out on the stretcher. I don't know did you see that?
No.
It caused absolute thing. And then I think Dignity sacked all the staff who were in the video because they were all laughing and bringing the guy in the stretcher, and the guy stretches like strapped in, like waving. And I was like, Jesus Christ. No, absolutely not. You just.
And if it isn't that, it's the day in the life of a funeral director.
Oh,
and here we
God,
are laughing at my cup of tea and hi, here's so-and-so, the hearse driver.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, where is the
decorum,
air of like respect?
Yeah. There is no decorum. And I am similar to, I think that's the reason why we got on so well. Obviously, you were my lecturer for my course, and we got on really well. And because we have the same ethics and morals about this, and I'm the same. I love what I do. I will do it to the day I die, and probably after. And I want to protect it and preserve its morals and its ethics and its values to be part of the community. About turn to when they automatically think of you when in their time of need, and you fulfilling what they need and support them, and for them. For these content creators it
cheapens it.
And think, hang on, like, what are you portraying us? We just look like children. And as a family, a bereaved family, going to look at you the same again, you dicking about in your funeral directors? No. Because I bloody wouldn't. If I saw that was my local funeral directors and they saw them arsing about, they're going, you think my nana's going there? You got to think again.
Yeah, I do, and I just think we've the industry's had so many hits. If anything, you want to try and increase that professionalism side of it, and now you've got this.
Yeah,
and all eyeballs are on TikTok, everything like that, and you might not even have it in your algorithm, but it'll pop up
as well.
And then you're like, oh, is that what they do?
Yeah. Like, is this what happens? This is what happens when, and the thing is, people are quite sensitive, and because it's a sensitive subject that we do, because it's something that every one of us will go through or has already gone through. And there's so much BS and myths and misconceptions and, things that is misleading for families. And because they're vulnerable, grieving families are vulnerable, they'll take them and go, oh, this clearly, this is what happens. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Not all of us, and it's the same with, you can't say the same about Harold Shipman. Not all doctors are Harold Shipman. Not all funeral directors are Legacy. Not all electricians in a hospital is David Fuller. But you're not helping our case.
No, in what is an already fragile position that the industry is in.
And we are trying to claw it back.
Absolutely. And for me, this, like I said, it cheapens it. It just makes it so that it's now entertainment. And death is not entertainment for people. And something else I took umbrage with, let me get back on my soapbox. Coffin Supplier putting up a post about their children's coffin rage.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, nah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Apparently it was discussed over and decided that that's what they would do. And I very much clearly said on there, I think you've decided wrong.
I don't. Who signs this off? It's like that national company who gave local nursing homes flowers on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Love from some funeral directors. No. Who sat there goes, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Also, CMA would not accept that because we're not allowed to tell.
No. Absolutely. It's worrying, but I think what is good is that we have got people like yourselves who are putting out there the true meaning behind it, the dignity, and also speaking about what people want to know at the end of the day. All the while going through your own experiences in it, your own life going through it. What do you think, having been in this industry, it's taught you that you probably would have told your younger self?
be kind. Kindness is something that is so underrated that, and it's always something that I really value now, because I'm currently looking after someone I went to school with, and speaking with the family who I know and things like that, and it's just showing them kindness. And it's not just people you know, but it's people who you don't know, and speaking to people and being kind to people who may not have the same faith as you, may not speak the same language as you, or the same belief system as you, but just showing complete strangers kindness. And it gets you further. It's nice to be nice. It has got me to a very privileged level in my community where I am trusted and respected. And what people mention to me when they say, "Oh, I work for Jake," is, "Oh, he's really kind. He's really nice." Do you know what? I'll have that on my gravestone.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, that'll do me. Yeah. There is a Corinthians, I think it's chapter 16, Corinthians chapter 16, 14. And I think it goes, "If you do anything, do it with love." And I, like you, I love this profession and I love doing what I do. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's emotionally draining. Yes, you do meet some questionable people. But at the end of the day, I've walked into this house as a complete stranger who family have fallen to pieces. I've picked them up, gave them a cuddle, dusted them off, held their hand to do the first steps, because the world does not stop turning just because someone's died. And then gently let go of the hand. And I'll be there to hold it again if they have a bit of a wobble. And then I'll come back. And then, you set them on the way again. And it's the biggest privilege I've ever had in my life.
Absolutely. And God bless you for everything you do, Jacob. And thank you ever so much for jumping on this as well. People want to find you. Just remind them, where can they find you?
So TikTok handle is Yorkshire Funeral Director. And unfortunately, you'll see my ugly mug on there.
And you've also got your podcast as well.
Yes, so Dead Honest is available on Amazon Music and Spotify. It's myself and a friend of mine called Chris Marsden. He's a radio DJ and celebrant as well. And we'll talk about lighthearted. It is a lot more lighthearted, but obviously still respectful. No gimmicks or anything like that. It's just he is fresh into the profession, and so he's still finding things out that baffles him, and we talk about it. It's very unscripted and unorganized, but yes, give it a listen.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for watching this as well. Please go and follow Jacob. He will appreciate your follows as well. And if you too, much like Jake, wants to appear on the show, the email address to ask to join is in the channel description. Jacob, thank you ever so much. And
thanks for having me.
Speak to you later. Take care.
Thank you.